Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ricky V, and you're listening to episode number 30 of the Elite Fitness Podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about winter bulking cycles with Dianabol. Dianabol is probably one of the most popular steroids to have ever existed. If you guys have listened to some of my other podcasts, I go into detail about how Dianabol was created by Dr. John Ziegler. He was the doctor for the Olympic weightlifting team. And in the 60s, during a competition, he went out and had some drinks with the doctor from the Russian Olympic weightlifting team. And they did really well. The Russians crushed it at these competitions. And during some drinks and some hoo-ha and a little bit of laughter there, John Ziegler learned from the Russian doctor. You got to give a Russian some drinks. He'll tell you all the secrets. Learn from the Russian doctor that they were in fact using testosterone, injecting testosterone into their athletes to get these incredible results. And so John Ziegler went back home and he started working on another steroid to compete against the Russians, something that would be more suitable for weightlifters. He came up with Dianable. Now, the history is a little bit fuzzy on this one, but I'm not sure if equipoise, if Boldenon came first or if Dianable came first. But Boldenon and Dianable are pretty much the same hormone. Difference is Boldenon has an ester chain, which makes it equipoise, right? It becomes equipoise. Equipoise is what we call Boldenon on the cyclinate. On the cyclinate being the ester. And Dianable is the same kind of Boldenon hormone, but it has a methyl group, 17 double alkylide group. And it makes it so that the steroid can survive first pass through the liver, so it can be taken orally. Now, Boldenon has been used in the farming and cattle industry to give to anemic animals and things like that for quite a while. Still being used today in some places. Anyway, Dr. John Ziegler put out Dianable. The Russians still beat the Americans in the next Olympics, even with the Dianable. And then years later, John Ziegler regretted having released Dianable into the world. I think I'm trying to get the exact quote, but I don't. The exact quote the idea was something along the lines of him saying like, "Hey, we had healthy athletes. Now we turned them into drug users," because he realized a lot of the guys were abusing Dianable, taking way more than the amounts that he had suggested they take. Anyway, Dianable is still out there. It's a great steroid for strength, for gaining weight. And it is, Dianable and Anavar are usually the first two steroids most underground steroid users use. Testosterone is probably the most popular, the one steroid most people use because of prescriptions from doctors for testosterone replacement therapy, obviously. But when it comes to actual just black market steroid use, Dianable, along with Anavar, probably one of the most popular ones. Next to Dianable and Anavar, you have like Winstrol. A lot of people use clenbuterol, even though clenbuterol is not really a steroid. But really, when it comes to bulking steroids, guys trying to gain size, Dianable is pretty much where it's at. Now, how to build a good bulking cycle with Dianable. Now, I discussed bulking cycles in a couple podcasts ago. You got to go listen to episode number 28, where I talk about cutting and bulking cycles. That'll give you some more details on what your mentality and needs to be when creating a program when it comes to bulking. You might have to force feed, you might have to take in more calories, but a good Dianable cycle can last between 4 to 6 weeks. I don't recommend guys using oral steroids for more than 4 to 6 weeks. I've said it on other podcasts that there are clinical studies where they're giving guys steroids well past the 3, 4, 5 month mark. These are clinical studies on patients that have other diseases, wasting diseases, AIDS, some of them. And when it comes to a doctor that is dealing with a patient that can't keep any muscle mass on. They're very low in strength. Their mobility and their weight and their ability to get through their day is hindered because of wasting disease. Well, giving them some Anadrol or one of these other steroids that's going to give him some strength, allow him to move around and get around. And all the doctor's got to worry about is that it's going to raise liver values some. It's going to mess his cholesterol lipid profile some. And that's kind of the trade-off for this person actually being able to like do normal things like pick up their groceries from the car to the house. You know, it's a good trade-off for doctors that are dealing with patients with wasting diseases. When it comes to steroid user, someone who's otherwise healthy and otherwise doesn't have any problems, once you get to around week 6 of taking orals, you're going to see your liver values and your cholesterol levels and many other markers just look kind of fucked up. And so I personally, and I know other guys that I talk to on the forums and stuff, we always tell guys, hey, 6 weeks is about as long as you want to be on it. Because we're talking about someone who's otherwise healthy now becoming, or at least their blood work shows them as being unhealthy. Can you keep gains from Dianable permanently long term? Yeah, maybe not. If you've been training naturally and pushed your body to the limit of your genetic limitations, 5 to 8 years, and then you run a Dianable cycle, and then you post-cycle therapy off properly, you might be able to keep a few pounds of that. Not all of it, because there's a lot of water retention that comes with Dianable, but a good portion of it you might just be able to keep. If you are a new jack, 1-2 years in the gym, I've seen guys go to the gym for 6 months and start taking steroids, then you're definitely not going to keep all of those gains. And in my humble opinion on the subject, I think you've hindered your ability to make natural gains. Once you've blasted your receptors with androgens, synthetic androgens, and strong synthetic androgens, and then you stop using them, if you do that really early on in your development, you're probably going to hinder your ability to gain mass naturally afterwards. How long will that hindered period of mass gaining will last? I don't know. But I think for a good long while, after you took steroids, well before you should have, you're probably going to notice that you're not going to have this ability to gain mass. It's just not going to happen as quickly, not going to happen as readily. You've really kind of fucked yourself up in a little bit, in a good way. This is why I tell guys, hey man, you got to wait. You know, you got to really wait until you've been doing this for a while before you even go and take the steroids. You can use Dianable as a kickstart to other steroids. You could run the classic. You know, the classic is Dianable, testosterone, and DECA. You run the classic on that. That's perfect. Or you could run Dianable with, EQ and Trenbolone. Dianable, EQ, Trenbolone. It's another pretty decent little cycle too for mass gaining. Equipoise, I think, goes really well with Dianable. I started the podcast talking about how similar they were, but when they're in your body, they act quite differently. That methyl group in Dianable that helps it pass and survive first digestion to liver also makes it stronger at the receptor site when it touches the receptors. And we see this across the board. There's testosterone, and then there's methyl testosterone. There's Trenbolone, and there's methyl Trenbolone. There's something like Masteron, and then you got Superdrol. Anytime you add that methyl group to a steroid, it will usually, across the board, it's pretty consistent, become stronger. When it gets to that receptor, when it gets to that androgen receptor in the muscle tissue, it'll give a stronger signal than your steroid that doesn't have the methyl group. Matter of fact, when you take something like Bolden on the cyclin, it's in your system, The undecyclinated ester needs to be removed first before your body can actually use the boldenone. And so, because of this, your boldenone is actually base hormone by the time your body actually utilizes it. So that's an important thing to note. How much Dianable should you take with your cycle? Well, if you're bulking, you shouldn't be all that worried about aromatization. You should understand that higher estrogen levels on a bulking cycle actually help you put on more mass. Helps you gain a little bit more water retention, which that's conducive to helping you gain more mass and more strength and being able to get through your workouts a lot quicker. I should say being able to push harder and lift more weights during your workouts. So when you run the Dianable, don't be too afraid of that water retention. It's okay for your estrogen to raise a little bit. You definitely don't want to let estrogen get into the realm where it's going to cause gynecomastia, which can become a permanent side effect. For a good Dianable bulking cycle, I usually like to go with Novodex. Novodex blocks the estrogen out of the estrogen receptors on your nipples where it would cause gynecomastia, but it lets the estrogen roam your body and do what it does to help your gains. It lets it increase water retention. It lets it help protein synthesis and other things that your body uses estrogen for. Because crushing your estrogen, lowering it way down, it's no good. It's no bueno. It's not a good idea. You need estrogen. Testosterone gives you the desire to have sex. Estrogen is actually involved in some of the mechanics of you actually getting that erection and being able to smash it. So you don't want to crush your estrogen. If you do, your joints will get brittle. You'll have a lot of problems with very sore, very brittle joints that are very prone to injury. Dosing, you can go with as little as 10 to 20 milligrams of Dianable a day, bro. Especially if you're stacking it with other steroids that are aromatized. Or you can go as high as 60 milligrams of dbol a day. I've heard guys doing 80 and 100, but I'm not going to go there. I think 60 is about the top most people want to do. 60 for 6 weeks. It's about all you want to do and stay healthy and have some gains that are really permanently kept. And obviously you need to cycle off the steroids really well. Like you need to do a really good job of cycling off post-cycle therapy to make sure that you keep most, if not all, of your gains. When Dianable encounters the aromatase enzyme, which is the enzyme responsible for something like testosterone, let's say, becoming an estrogen hormone, Dianable also goes through a conversion, becoming an estrogenic hormone, but it becomes methylstradiol. Methylstradiol, because it keeps that methyl group. It keeps that modification, that synthetic modification that was made to your Dianable in order to allow it to survive digestion. That modification remains, that group remains in the hormone. And now you have an estrogen hormone that's methylated. Now, as I just discussed, male hormones, anabolic steroids that are methylated, have a stronger reaction, a stronger effect on the receptor. So it would be reasonable to assume that methylstradiol will be stronger in your estrogen receptors than any estrogen that your body could make naturally because of the methyl group. Not only that, but it'll allow that hormone to survive passing through the liver over and over again, which means that is going to be a longer lasting hormone in your body. That being said, Dianable has one of the shortest half-lives out of all the orals. Out of all the oral steroids that you can take, Dianable is one of the ones that has the shortest half-life. So ideally, you would be taking some Dianable about every 4 hours during your day. One good way, or one possible way, I should say, to extend the life of Dianable is if you drink it with grapefruit juice. Grapefruit juice inhibits some of the enzymes in your liver that break down Dianable. Now, very important to note that it'll also inhibit the ability of your liver to break down other medications, because those enzymes don't just break down Dianable, they help break down other medications and other substances that need to be broken down. And by taking the grapefruit juice, you inhibit that enzyme some. It takes a longer time. So since, 20 years ago, guys were taking grapefruit juice with Dianable because of this very same effect. 10, 20, 30, 40 milligrams is fine. 60 milligrams, you could take that much Dianable. I personally like to tell guys to keep it to only about 6 weeks. Take some N2Guard with it for sure. Please visit n2guard.com. That is a product that I make for guys using oral steroids to help keep your liver healthy all throughout your steroid run. Now, you want to spread out Dianable. Start taking it really early in the morning all the way until late at night. If you're only doing 10 milligrams, which is a small amount, try to take 5 first thing in the morning and then 5 just about half hour before you work out. Dianable is one of the few steroids out there that actually has pretty darn good effects as a pre-workout. Dianable will make you feel that bit better for that next workout when you take it about a full hour before you start training. It actually helps quite a bit. If you're taking 20, 30, 40 milligrams of Dianable a day, then spread out the dosing. Try to take a little bit every 4 hours about, just to keep nice, even levels of the steroid in your body throughout the day. If you're only doing 10 milligrams, obviously it'd be a lot harder to do 2.5 mgs 4 times a day. That's pretty tough to break the pills down that way. But you'll have a really good effects if you follow my protocol and just take them throughout the day. One of the reasons that a lot of guys think that injectable steroids are stronger than orals, it's because with an oral steroid, you're always going to have gaps in availability in your bloodstream. Oral steroids, they enter your system. They're readily available. There's a lot of them in your bloodstream. And then within the same day, within the same few hours, the amount of available steroid in your blood system decreases rapidly. When it comes to an injectable, the majority of injectables, even some of the shortest ones like propionate and acetate, but the majority of injectables, this curve, this increase in availability and then decrease in availability will last days. When it comes to oral steroids, the same curve of increased availability in your body and then decreased will happen a few times throughout the day. So spacing out your Dianable dosing and taking it consistent is very, very important towards getting good, consistent use. Now, as far as what to stack Dianable with, you could stack it with testosterone. You could stack it with DECA. You could stack it with Trenbolone. You could stack it with Equipoise. You could stack it with nandrolone phenylpropionate. You could stack it with a lot of different steroids out there. I probably wouldn't stack it with another oral unless you're a competitive guy and you got a coach that's telling you to do that and you agree and you guys are on the money. If you're just a regular Bob looking big to go to the office and figuring all these out on your own, don't take another oral with Dianable. That includes injectable Winstrol. Don't do it. Just too much of methyl substances in your body all day. Unless you're doing something really weird and kind of different, like 20 mgs of Dianable and 20 mgs of Winstrol, something along those lines. You just keep your oral dosing, I always like to say, under 60 milligrams per day. What can you expect out of using Dianable and bulking with Dianable? Well, there's going to be some rapid weight gains within the first 2 weeks. A lot of guys report 10 to 15 to 20 pounds of weight increase in just the first 2 to 3 weeks. This is actually not uncommon to be reported by folks. Now, you're not going to gain all this in muscle. Some of it comes from water retention. Water retention brought about by the actual methylstradiol, that really strong estrogen that comes from Dianable conversion. Now, you want some of this water retention. On a bulking cycle, it's not bad. That water retention helps you lift more weights, and I personally think it helps you build more muscle. That extra layer of water really helps the way things work. I'm not the only guy to report that water retention has caused them to have more strength. Well, obviously, steroid water retention. And most guys really believe that it helps you gain muscle mass faster. You're gaining more muscle faster under that sort of layer of water retention. Side effects to be on the lookout for is water retention can get out of hand. If you just use something like Novodex that keeps the methylstradiol out of the glands under your nipples, but you're slamming that Dianable 60 or more milligrams a day, you might get water retention where you get like red face, kind of red puffy faced, and really look like a steroid user. Like a real user. Every time that you are lifting the weights, man, your head's gonna get red, your face will get red. I mean, some of the, you'll feel a little bit of a tightness and kind of chunkiness around your knuckles. So really good ways to notice the water retention. So in cases like that, you might want to drop a little bit of aromasin in there. What's a decent protocol, let's say, for aromasin and Novodex if you're doing 60 or 80, going above milligrams of Dianable, or you're doing just 40 milligrams of Dianable with 500 mg of testosterone? You can do as little as 10 to 15 mg of Novodex per day, 20 milligrams of Novodex per day sometimes. That's enough to keep gynecomastia away. And then you could drop in aromasin, maybe 12 mg every other day. That's been a pretty decent protocol for guys stacking Dianable along with testosterone, which is a very popular stack, by the way, guys. Dianable and testosterone together, very, very popular stack for many folks out there. If you guys want personalized help, you want personal help with your case, with what you are trying to do, go to elitefitness.com, elitefitness.com. At the very top on the right, you'll see the community or forums link. Click on that. Go into the forums, register, man. It takes 5 minutes, not even 2 minutes. And ask your question. If you're not allowed to post a new thread because you are a new guy, just look for a similar thread and say, hey guys, I'm a new guy. I have a question. Here's what I want to talk about. And just hijack another thread. There's no big issue. You go to evolutionary.org and also just go to the forums, register, hijack a thread. If you want to post your question right here on YouTube, obviously you might be listening to this on your Apple device or Android device through one of the podcast apps like Spotify. You won't be able to do it there, but if you're listening to this on YouTube, and a few of you guys do, you also have the option of asking a question on YouTube. I'll come in and I'll answer it myself and help you guys out. It'd be really hard to do a podcast that just takes everything into account. There's so many different situations, so many levels of experience, so many different goals, and so many different stacks that people want to try that I would spend hours trying to cover it all, and it would just create more questions. The best thing is to come into the forums and ask your question there, get personalized help. If you want to reach out to me and get some help from me, go to rickyvrock.com. That's RICKY, V as in victory, ROCK.com. That's my social. There you'll be able to just come in and ask me any question you want. Follow me on social and ask me any questions you want. I help guys out every day for free. I don't charge anybody anything unless you need something real specific and involved and you want me to follow your progress across weeks and months, then definitely we should set up some kind of fee. But for any other reason or any other situation, just come in and ask. If you have a cycle idea, if you want to run a certain thing, just come in and ask. I'll do my very best to take care of you and answer all of your questions. So that's it, guys. This is a very kind of short, very general podcast all about Dianable. I've done other podcasts on Dianable. In the description of this podcast, I will throw some links up there for you guys so that you can see and listen to some of my other work when it comes to Dianable. There's just some longer podcasts and some more involved information on the topic. I'll add those links below. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube or wherever you're listening, just look at the description and you'll be able to see the other links linking you to the other podcasts I've done about Dianable. As always, guys, I'm not a doctor. I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Do not take anything I say as medical advice. Please contact your own doctor before doing any drugs, taking any supplements, doing even just going to the gym, doing any training. Get a full checkup. Make sure that you're nice and healthy. For the Elite Fitness podcast, for the elitefitness.com podcast, remember, guys, it's elitefitness.com. This is Ricky V. Rock signing off. Talk to you guys next week.